Welcome one and all to the DL debate. Thanks so much for tuning in now on Highland Radio, back via the podcast. Thanks Michaela there for the news roundup. Of course, the legendary Ivan Borland. We have Joe Dex here producing as ever, keeping me right. Good man, Joe. Just from the weekend, we have had our first intermediate winners in the ladies football. Killy Beggs and Niamh Worra faced off in that tie, and Niamh Worra come out on top 10-7. Niamh Worra now take the trip into Ulster for their intermediate Ulster campaign. That's happening against the Antrim champions on October 14th. We wish them all the best. We had a big weekend, of course, in action in Donegal here. Championships to be looked over, playoff games, intermediate and senior, and now we're into the quarter-final stage shortly. I'm going to wrap this up with two men who were the best of stuff on the pitch and now the best off it. It is John Gildea and Brendan Kilcoyne. Brendan's here in studio. Brendan, how are you, lad?
I'm very good, Brendan, thank you.
We're just getting John on Zoom there. John, how are you, sir? Can we hear you loud and clear?
I hope so. Hi, Brendan. Hi, Brendan and Brendan and Brendan.
I just got your volume up there. John, lads, great to have you with us. Later on the show, we're going to hear from Tyrone legend, of course, the top man with RTE now. It is Enda McGinley. He's going to give us a bit of lowdown on the Tyrone Championship, the knockout Tyrone Championship, the very special one in Ulster, the first weekend of it over. And of course, we'll have to ask him about the small matter of Micky Harte, his club mate and former boss, taking over at their friends in Derry. But as I say, it was a huge weekend of action here in the county. Many games on and places up for grabs with our pre-quarter finals, and of course we had some relegation playoffs as well. Brendan, getting straight into it from the weekend, I'm looking at four masters here. They went down to McCool. Strange scoreline, Brendan, 3-4 to 15 points, and we're always, there's a question mark over McCool's, are they taking the next step, are they not? And you don't need to look too far across the man of the match. It just seems like it's going to be Oisin Gallen, isn't it? Yeah. But listen, there's something coming before Masters. They're definitely building towards something. There's a few decent performances this year, but McCool's also going in the right direction.
Yeah, undoubtedly with four Masters, and I know of myself from involvement with the minors over the last few years, there's some fantastic young players coming through. Now, obviously, they're not going to be ready for another couple of years, but they are building nicely, building a good, strong squad, very young throughout the field, the likes of Conor Reid, Senan Carr, Shane Carr's young fella, really good footballer, was with the minors for 2 years. Yeah, good stock, and so they're definitely coming. But as you mentioned, Oisin Gallen is on fire kind of thing. And I watched him the first day down against Gweedore down Margallen, and he was just unmarkable. They just couldn't handle him, and he seems to be going out and doing that week on week. And that's brilliant for Donegal football. That's what we need. We need Farah fit, and it's great to see him get a run at this. But they're a very young side, and again, they've had a lot of minors that have come through over the last few years, like Cian Mulligan, Sean Martin, Shane McMenamin. You're looking at Conor McGinty, another really good little player kind of thing. So they've a lovely mixture of them young fellas, along with Marty Riley, Stephen Riley, Chad McSorley, these type of guys, and of course Joel Bradley. And the twin threat of Joel Bradley and Oisin Gallen is going to be a queer match for any defence to stand up to. To have two forwards of that quality. So they're definitely making progress, and they're going to be concerned. Conceding 3 goals, putting 15 scores on the board against 7 and only coming out by a point is concerning for them, kind of thing. So that's something they need to look at, I know.
Yeah, it certainly looked like they dominated the game, John. But in many ways, I suppose McCool's with Gallen, and it looks like it's not as if he's kicking over a few frees and a couple of handy scores. He's kicking over top drawer scores in each game, and is he going to be enough, John, to ask the real question that are they good enough to take Glenswilly?
Well, obviously, yeah, he's on such good form. I suppose the only caveat I would say is that you really now are coming to the business out of the championship, and as Brendan pointed out, for Masters are a very young side. They're inexperienced, and I do agree with Brendan in the sense that I do think they're building something special up there. A lot of young talent coming through, and I think they're a team to watch over the coming years. But I suppose there's a real, difference in meeting a Four Masters team that's coming versus a Glenswilly team with a lot of old dogs for the hard road. And I was just laughing in my head earlier on when somebody said, who's going to be able to mark Oisín Gallen. I don't know if they'll be able to mark him, but he'll have plenty of marks on him come Sunday, one way or another, because you and I know that Glenswilly are a very hardened championship team with great pedigree. They know how to win championship games. They'll have men that'll, get in and around him. And I think it's a very, very good test for Oisín, because he's becoming the focal point. Any team that's going to play them right now is going to have a special plan in place for Oisín. And I know he's surrounded by talented players, but he's taken on the real focal point for the team. And that's good for Donegal. And Michael Murphy, for 15 years, carried that mantle. And I suppose people are looking at Oisín as the man to take over that mantle from Michael. And it's interesting enough that they'll be playing on opposite end of the parks, and it'll be interesting to see who comes out on top.
Well, indeed. And, I've seen Oisín play out the field as well. Bren, Michael had that ability to basically play everywhere.
Yeah.
But Oisín has that talent as well. He's a ball winner too. I remember a couple of seasons ago watching him in the under-21 final against St. Eunans, and he was playing midfielder, and he looked like just a natural midfielder. He has all the skills. Obviously injuries has curtailed probably the brilliance. But from the get-go, man, I remember his debut, Croke Park, the 4 points, and you just thought that this lad's something special. And we've always seen bits and pieces of it, but regularly now in club, every time I look, he's hitting some serious scoring charts. And whether that's enough, if Bradley Walsh is enough to back him up. Do you agree with John that Glenswilly still are that kind of battle-hardened team?
Yeah, I like this Glenswilly team is coming through, Brendan, and obviously having Michael full-time is a big help for them, but you look at their midfield too, you look at Morgan and Marley, they're two big guys, they're two guys that can win their own ball around the middle of the park, and they've brought in a couple of great defenders like Jack and Donald Gallagher have, come into their defence. I know the last Damon Ward, he's retired, he's playing a bit of reserve I think now, and he was the key man for Glenswilly when they were winning championships at full back, because it was a problem area, but he solved that for them. But now they've brought through these two Gallagher lads, Jake Kelly is there, and they are building again, so they are. Michael still has plenty of years of club football in him, so I think they're going to be a feature. I think they are tough, and I always said it, if Glenswilly get to the quarters, they're going to be hard beat, because they will grind it out with any team, so they will. And I expect them probably to have too much for McCool's at the weekend, and it's just their nous and their know-how how to win these games. They have a great understanding of that, and they have a sprinkling of experienced players like Michael and Copper and Keelan Kelly and these type of guys that have been there, done that, and that's a big help for them other young fellas within the squad.
Yeah. You agree with that, John? Park Bonner's doing a good job there with it's been a tough time for Glenfan, very tough season, of course, and the recent news as well. It's been a real, I suppose, tight time for everybody involved with the club. Your heart would go out to them, but Glenswilly kind of controlling the game and really, looking at, we've got these differences in sides, John, but certainly Glenswilly are on the way up, and they have too much ability all around the park currently for Glenfan.
Yeah, I know, and I think that it was a fairly predictable result. I know they were trying to talk up the local rivalry, etc., but they're just in different places in their development right now. And I watched them up in Glenties against Neil Connell. They give a very good account of themselves for large parts of that game. They kind of faded in and out of it at times. Probably left it disappointed that that a lot of the hard work done. There were 6 or 7 points up at one stage, and probably against any other team in the county, maybe apart from St. Eunans and Neil Connell, they probably would have got a result there. But no, they're building. That result in Glenties may stand them, because they will have learned much more from that, and where their vulnerabilities are and where their weaknesses are versus some of the teams they played earlier where they were winning comfortably enough. So building, always a dangerous side. No lack of confidence out there when it comes to championship football, so they'll definitely be in the picture. And I think, come Sunday or Saturday or Sunday, whatever day it's on, they'll have too much overall from McCool's, but it's still a very intriguing battle, because both of them will feel that they got a good draw. And when you go into a championship match feeling you've got a good draw and you have a real shot at it, and McCool's won't come up just to lie down, and if Oisín has one of those days where he's kicking points for fun, then it could make for a very interesting day all round. But overall, on the grand scheme of things, you would expect maybe Glenswilly would have too much at this stage.
Yeah, certainly, because I suppose we've went out to a lot of what we would all call the top 4 teams the last few years. Now Glenswilly are pushing to get in there, but there might be that bit closer, Bryn, that this could be a game. It's certainly fascinating stuff. Tell me, Ardagh, Cloughaneely, see that one coming?
Absolutely
double
not.
Scores. I mean, Cloughaneely were favourites going on its slide. I think, unbelievable stuff. I mean, what a performance from Carl Joseph Malloy. You know, I keep looking at different names. You mentioned Marty there. Players like young Malloy. I'm thinking of Jim coming in now, and people are saying about the talent pool and that. What a performance from him. 1-8 and you know, in a game that was very hard to call, maybe slightly leaning towards Cloughanneely, who had a decent season. Running up this in Ardagh had, you know, a couple of performances and a couple of performances where things went against him. But listen, Damien Devenney pulled things together and here they are in the quarter-final.
Big time, yeah. And, you know, we watched them out in the park against St. Eunans. They were very disappointing that day. And Conor Morrison was actually marking Carl Joseph that day, so he was. But there was no service of ball coming into him, so he couldn't do anything. So that's why getting the service of ball into someone like KJ is so important. And
he's a player you know well, obviously.
He is, yeah. He was with us with the minors there a couple of years. He scored a phenomenal goal in the Ulster minor final a couple of years ago, soccer style, drilled it from 30 yards out of nothing into the back of the net. And he has a great talent. But you know what he also has? He's a brilliant attitude, so he has. He wants to be a footballer. He wants to play for Donegal. And when you've that kind of mentality, you're going to push on, and I'm delighted to see that he is pushing on. But it's going to take a huge effort from Ardagh, so it is. You know, they're probably in their development. It's their first opportunity to get to a semi-final in a long time, and we know, Brendan, going back to our times, you know, we had some queer battles with them down through the years, and you know, great club, brilliant club down there and everything. So it's good to see them back in the quarterfinals. They're normally in the relegation playoffs over the last number of years, so it's great to see them back. And you know, Gweedore have a couple of problems in that Neil McGee went off with a hamstring injury, and I think Michael Carroll went off early too, and their availability will have a big say in. And I think Ardagh can approach this game with a lot of confidence based on their superb victory over Cloughanneely that none of us saw coming, and to be fair, like, you know, so it'll be a really interesting game, so it will. And you know, two powerhouses of Donegal GA going at it. Yeah,
they'll take great heart from it. Brendan, see, just as being a previous manager to the likes of Carl Joseph, watching him in a game where he doesn't get much service and that's getting a hard thing to watch, even though it was against St. Eunans. I know what you mean. You have a very talented guy inside. If you get him the ball and have him in the game, you know, it's always a tough thing when you have someone of that ability and they're really not in the match, and then you see him shine in another game. I guess, you know, you would have ties to all these young lads that you're bringing through. Yeah, and you do. You build up a great affinity with them when you've worked with them for a couple of years. So I've been with Carol for 2 years into the minor squad, and you know, as I say, a great lad. And it was, you know, I was disappointed for him that day because I was looking forward to seeing him play, and because I knew he'd been playing well. I'd been following their progress all year, and I knew he'd been playing well. But he just didn't get any service. They were just cleaned out within the middle third. Their kick-out strategy, Gareth Concar was in goals, and he just struggled getting kick-outs away to his own teammates. And, you know, for that reason, they struggled, and Eunans were just too strong on the day. But to show the bounce-back ability that they've done, so to beat Cloughanneely and to get into the last 8 is a great sign of the character that they have. And, you know, as I say, they're going to take great hope out of that, so they are. Yeah, your neighbours, John, what are you making of this? Is there some players coming through that's going to stabilise them, I suppose? But compared with Niamh Conn this last number of years, have just been you know, producing players after players. Ardagh didn't seem to be doing that. They were always struggling, but maybe on the way back.
Yeah, and I think, listen, they're a great club, and as you well know, some great people down there always have been. And, you know, as Brendan rightly pointed out, when we were all trudging along and flying the flag, you know, you came across Ardagh, and Ardagh had beaten the bus 9 times out of 10 in most days. And that's completely flipped on its head over the last 15 years. And I know that's been hard for Ardagh people to take, because now, you know, they were the noisy neighbours for long enough, and you can imagine a lot of the Lenty lads now are making equally as much noise over the last 15 or 20 years. So it's great to see them on the road back again. I suppose I had a different opinion on it. I thought Cloughanneely maybe were talked up a little bit too much, in the sense that I seen them maybe in the championship. Well, I don't know if it was last year, the year before, against St. Eunans, and they were very, very poor. And I think there was a lot read into that St. Eunans result. And we all know if there's one team in the county that can put you to the sword like nobody else, St. Eunans, if they get a run on you, are the kind of team that can put 20 points on you and you don't know what happened. So I think pride alone, and they're a very proud club and they're a very proud town, would have meant that they had a lot of soul searching for the week. And deep down, I thought there wasn't a situation where Cloughanneely should have been made favourites as much as they were, because I thought there was always going to be a kick, and there was a real kick. And I think it's interesting now that you and Brendan are pointing out how valuable midfielders are, considering you had no regard for midfielders when you were playing at all, and you guys took all the glory. It's interesting now that no matter how good you are inside, you do need midfielders to be able to give you the ball.
That's true. I still think number 6 would have been your ultimate position, but we'll have to dream up that one another time. John, lads, we just mentioned Gweedore there, obviously them in Donegal. We interview here with Niall Friel after the game. Ryan Ferry caught up with him after their 1-point victory over Donegal.
You came through by a point. It was terrible weather conditions here in Kilcara, but you edged through. It must be a great feeling to be into the quarterfinals of the Donegal Senior Championship.
Yeah, great now. I think we knew from the start of the week there was going to be a bad forecast, and it played out that way. Any day you come away from Kilcara against Donegal in a tight northwest battle, you're happy. As again, I think the team's done well in the conditions, and we're just happy enough to come through with a 1-point victory.
Yeah, they scored a goal late in the first half, in the 27th minute, from Ryan Green, but you got 2 points after that. How important was that in the victory to make sure you went in a point up at half time?
Yeah, very important. I think with the way the wind was going, it favoured Donegal in the second half, so it was very important we got the even draw. If we went on a draw, we'd be happy we got that point then just to kind of settle ourselves, and then the second half then we just knew against that breeze and them goals very hard to shoot into was in our terms then we just kind of control the game, and I think that's what we done. Yeah,
Donegal did come powering back into the match. They drew level, and Cathal Burke at one stage made a very important block from I think it was Darren Curran, which would have put Donegal into the lead, and a team in front in that kind of conditions, it would have been hard to claw it back.
I don't know, came strong there with Danny's kickouts. He's hitting the far 45, and they got a few scores off, and as you said, young Cathal Burke came in there, done a great block. I think if Donegal did go ahead, I don't think we would have pegged them back the momentum we had with them, but I think that block then just gives them momentum, and then the old man Enda McGinley stood up and first put it over the bar for us, so Eamon's bragging in there, he's happy out.
So the draw for the quarterfinals has just been made. You've been paired against Ardagh, who had a great win over Cloughaneely yesterday. What do you make of that draw?
I suppose it's a senior quarter-final. I think Ardagh made light work of Cloughaneely yesterday. Wasn't at a run, but all going by accounts made light work with them. We kind of struggled to put Cloughaneely away, so it just shows them that Ardagh are a serious outfit. They seem to have been clicking at the right time. I suppose these last couple of years they've been down near the relegation senior, so they might be looking at now just have a shot at Gweedore, and they'll be happy out. They've probably got us as well, so it'll be interesting now leading up and just kind of do a bit of work on them, and they'll be doing the same with us, I suppose. Yeah, and a short turnaround, but one you'll look forward to. Exactly. I'm just hoping now we get a few knocks cleared up. That's what you want to do. Even that 2-week break there, it's long sitting about the house and training and stuff. I think every player just wants to play in games. We didn't reach the top 4, but I think the top 4 as well, they'll be mad to get out. So no, games is what you want, but just it is unfortunate if you pick up a knock, you kind of miss it. But I think as most players in the club, the county just want to play games. Yeah, Niall Friel there. Thanks, of course, Ryan Ferry picking up interview. The old man, Eamon McGee. John, what do you think? McGee comes up with a good bit. Listen, that was the back-to-back championship game. Of course, they were the last side they met each other. I was down at that game. Gweedore narrowly coming through, and again, John, is that a wee bit of Donegal are obviously back in the senior and stabilising and certainly, Desi Garra's got them playing decent football and well organised. Gweedore maybe are dropping down a bit, which has evened up the championship fair here, because that was a tight game. Yeah, no, I think it's a combination of both. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think get back to the pack, from 4 or 5 years ago when, they had that amazing run and they were the team to beat. I don't know if they've ever really recovered from that saga that they had with Glenties over the 3 matches, and it was a bitter pill for them to swallow. And since then, year on year, they've gone off the boil a little bit more. And I suppose the reality is some of their better players are getting on. I think Eamon, 37, 38 right now, and he's the man that's pulling you out of the fire. So, good result for Gweedore. Donegal will be very encouraged by the performance. They'll be disappointed in one sense, in the sense that Gweedore were probably there to be taken, and I'm sure they're looking at chances they should have taken and maybe put them to the sword. But again, after one in the intermediate coming up, they're stabilising, they're going well, they're building, and again, a very proud, a bit like Ardagh, back in the day, a very proud club, a lot of history, some amazing talented players that have come out of that club, and they're building a new crop right now, and I think the format for the championship has suited them. It's allowed them to play championship games at a high level against good teams, which is always good for younger players in their development. And they'll be very encouraged by the way things went this year. And, they'll be a force to be reckoned with as they continue their development. But Gweedore seem to have come back a little bit to the pack. And Ardagh,
will fancy their chances. They're on a high. They have nothing to lose. Nobody's going to give them any chance of beating Gweedore. And they're young and they're fresh and they're full of running. And as you both well know, when you get to a stage in your career and, you may have been there and done that for a long period of time and you come across a young fella that's mad to run all day, it's just not the most pleasant experience in the world. So I wouldn't write Ardagh totally off in this one.
Yeah, interesting stuff. We talked to Brendan about the likes of Micky Harte, as an integral player for them. Again, another man I think could do a job for Donegal. Losing him and Neil McGee's experience, of course. Darrell Boyle's back in from his travels. He must have been training hard on the beach because he was their main man, thriving, and we've seen him do it with Donegal last year. He's some brilliant performances with Donegal, but they've him back in there. There was talk of Cian Mulligan come back. I don't think he is going to come back in. So Gweedore have lost. I suppose it's unfair that they haven't dropped out a top pack with the players that they have. They've lost. It's been a tough one for McNeely's coming in this year. A lot of players not available to him. So they're doing what they need to do, Bren, but you're still thinking they're a bit off maybe that top tier where they were, which would leave them open to, someone taking a scalp in this, from them in this championship. Yeah,
definitely. And, I think the key here from a Gweedore point of view is the fitness level, or the fitness and availability of Neil McGee and Micheál Carroll. Micheál Carroll is a superb athlete. He can drive them through the middle of the field, and he came on that did on Mahergallen against McCool's, and he really took control of the game, and he's a superb footballer. We know the engine that he has in the middle of the field, but to have Darragh Boyle back is obviously a huge lift for them, because they were missing him and Nora McFadden Ferry, Cian Mulligan going away, and they're all blows to take. So they're all top players to be not to have available. So I just feel that there's no doubt about it, they're not at the level that they were at a few years ago. They definitely have backed off from that level, and that was a phenomenal level. It was a brilliant run. It was great to follow them through that run, so it was. But you had Niall Friel on there. Niall Friel is a fantastic leader, so he is, anytime you see him play, he's driving them forward from the half back line, etc. But John's right, this is going to be a tough game for them. Ardagh are going to come in, they're going to feel that been written off, that no one gives them a chance. They're going to feel, that already their year has been relatively success. So they see this as a huge opportunity to get to a semi-final. And I think going back to the availability of them two key players is going to be fundamental, or it's going to be fundamental to Gweedore's chances to progress in the championship. Yeah, interesting. John, of course, the big one that everyone's looking at, the most mouth-watering of the lot, is Kilcar and Niamh Conaill. Sum us up what the Niamh Conaill faithful is thinking about this one, because Kilcar are almost coming in, I'm not saying under the radar, but they've, as we said, we keep trying to say who's favourites for this championship, and Kilcar are in the small group behind them, but certainly they're going to take a lot of beating in this quarter final.
Yeah, no, listen, it's I suppose it's the big draw, and from a Niamh Conaill perspective, we'd probably rather avoid them. There was potentially much easier quarter-final draws than this one, and like there's a lot of history between the clubs. There's the contested county final from a couple of years ago. There's never been much between the teams. We played in a couple of league finals. It's been touch and go. I don't see it being any other way, because again, the way Niamh Conaill play, Niamh Conaill will never do what St Eunans did to Ardagh, in the sense that if they get on top of you, they still play the same game. They grind it out. But they've been very experienced. They're very efficient at what they do. There's question marks over Kilcar as regards what happens if you shut Patrick McBrearty down. Now, that's easier said than done. It's a bit like Oisín Gallen. How do you shut him down? So if Niamh Conaill can shut Patrick down, then that's going to go a long way to deciding this tie. But it's a very intriguing tie. Two Southwest clubs. Both of them have been in the so-called top four for the last 5 or 6 years. And again, no love lost between them, in the sense for various different reasons. So very intriguing tie, I suppose, on performances. Niamh Conaill probably going as favourites. They probably had maybe harder games to a certain extent. The Eunans game has definitely stood them in good stead. The Glenswilly game, again, was a major test for them. I know Kilcar were well tested by McCool's the last day out. So very intriguing game.
But John, is there something good for Niamh Conaill around? I know they had the Eunans test, but obviously you had a bit of, I suppose, a comfort in that it wasn't do or die. Is there something in this that you think, right, if we beat Kilcar, you can really say, we've a high chance of winning the championship? Is it an important game, I suppose, in terms of learning where you're at? I mean, whatever team comes through that, would really fancy their chances of winning it.
Yeah, but I don't think that's in the psyche of the Niamh Connell team. They take every game by game, every minute by minute to a certain extent. And it's not that they need, given the level of success they've had over the last 15, 16 years and the amount of battles they've had in any given day, they don't need to beat any certain team at any given time to give them that level of confidence or motivation. They very much know what they're about. They will see Kilcar as a very major challenge, like everybody else in the quarterfinals right now, and they're just very focused on getting their own performance right. They haven't been firing on all cylinders. If we, as a club, if we give Kilcar the kind of start that St. Eunans had, or the kind of start that Glenswilly had, then it's going to be a real uphill battle. But if they get on point, cut out the silly mistakes, giving away the bad goals, etc., are able to shut Patrick McBurdy down, then this is going to be a real battle. No matter what the story is, it'll be a real battle. That's the history between these two sides. But they'll go in with, Niamh Connell will go in with a level of confidence that they've been there before. They know how to win games. I don't think much is going to change from their perspective. It'll be interesting to see how Kilcar adapt and how they're going to take on Niamh Connell, because I suppose that's the quandary that everybody has when it comes to the championship. Yeah. Do you change your own game to deal with the way Niamh Connell play? Because Niamh Connell are going to play the way they're going to play, and it doesn't matter who they play or how they play. They're just going to do what they do, and it's always interesting to see how other teams adapt and are able to deal with that type of intensity that they bring.
And they are the masters at it, there's no doubt in it, going for 6 finals in a row. Brent, another team that plays against Rua, they're playing in that kind of mould. They want to stay in games and make sure that they grow into games, and they're fairly growing into this championship. Where do you see them lying with St. Eunans? Because John's saying, is it a matter of Eunans going down trying to break down this shield? If they get on top of them, they could be in trouble. Is that how you see this game turning out?
Listen, it's difficult. Rua have made great progress, and they've had a great run winning their 4 group games, so they have finishing top of the league in that respect. But I think just St. Eunan's strength and depth, and I think the same with Niamh Connell, just their strength and depth, the fact that they're able to introduce real quality players off the bench with 15-20 to go that win games for you. And if you go back to the inter-county season, we saw how crucial that was for the likes of Dublin and Kerry to get these guys off the bench to be able to make a huge impact on a game when they come into it. So I just feel that St. Eunan's probably will have too much for Rua. This is a real acid test for Rua on Sunday, and they're a club that are making progress. John McNulty is down there. They're in great shape. They're on a crest of a wave down there. And again, it's good to see the likes of Rua back competing at the top table in Donegal senior football, because for so long they were there and they kind of disappeared off the scene then for a number of years. So this is a big ask for them coming up against St. Eunan's team that are many people's fancy, along with Niamh Connell, to go the whole way kind of thing. So I think it might be a step too far for Rua, but it's a big test for them to see where they are, how they've progressed since the last met St. Eunan's a couple of years ago in this stage of the championship kind of thing. So we'll know more after Sunday. You might say, apart from the Gweedore challenge, that they had a comfortable enough run through they'll play very defensive, we know that kind of thing. So I think Eunans will find a way to break them down, and that could disrupt the Rua pattern.
Yeah. Listen, it's fascinating, all them. There's something to be said in every one of these games, which is showing you there's a bit of a change in nature in the senior football. One team that is going to be in the senior football next year, St. Michael's. Of course, they defeated Milford at the weekend. Michael Lankin inspired St. Michael's to put Milford and St. Paul's down to that last relegation game. And intermediate, of course, goals was the order of the day. The teams that outgoaled their opposition came through, and Tyrone, Bobby Begettigan hitting a couple of goals for them in their victory. They march into the semi-final. They're playing Downlands. Fanad Giles keep surprising the pack, 113 to 14 over Buncrana. Malin accounting for Bundoran again, 2-9 to 10 points. And goals, John, win games is the obvious thing, but in intermediate there, it's every side, the opposition not registering a 3-pointer, and the difference in Downlands beating Red Hughes and Malin overcoming Bundoran, Fanad beating Buncrana, and of course Tyrone beating Columba was all about hitting the back of the net. Did I lose John there? Yeah, I've lost John.
Listen, it's a great point, and you just look at this Tyrone team, the youth the whole way through it, Brendan, like they really, and I'm looking forward to maybe seeing them at some stage, because I know a lot of them again kind of thing, but it's a changed team from the Tyrone team we would have known in the past. A lot of good young players coming through, whether they have enough experience and maturity to go all the way will be the interesting question. As you mentioned, like, you know, Fanad they've taken out a couple of big guns now, a couple of big wins for them, and, you know, people are beginning to take notice of them, so they are definitely. Bundoran getting beat was somewhat of a surprise, as was maybe Buncrana, but full kudos to, you know, Downings and Malin. Malin are seemingly going there along nicely too, the Fildaras and O'Neill lads and these guys, and when they get ahead of steam up, so they are, you know, we had a few battles with them ourselves down through the years. They can be quite a force, so they can too. So really open championship, hard to pick a winner in it, Brendan, really. Yeah,
it is hard to pick a winner, Brendan. It's going to go down the wire. Some fascinating games in there, as you say. Malin after last season really coming in this championship looking to prove a point, and they're down to the last 4 now. We will be getting further updates on this championship as time goes on, but for now we're going to leave the senior championship, and after the break I'm going to talk to, as I say, Enda McGinley, who's going to give us a lowdown on the Tyrone championship and of course the appointment of Derry of the one and only Micky Harte.
The DL debate with Sister Saras Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9 p.m. daily in Saras Kitchen, and there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
Electric Ireland Superhomes can help you achieve a cosier, healthier and more energy efficient home, and one with less carbon emissions. They look after your home's retrofit from start to finish, including management of SEAI grants. Visit electricirelandsuperhomes.ie and start your journey to a superhome today. Grants offered are provided by the Government of Ireland through the SEAI.
Kirsteach hervisi cheadúnas fólamóide agus tamána líne, lena náritar anúchan ústátú málartú agus áhallathair. Tá sé éasca agus is féidir dhéanamh gan stró. Tuair cuairt an seirbhís náisiúnta cheadúnas tamána líne in jobhag ndls.rsa.ie. Mai go bhaidí Devenney a tastal, teachtocht an údarás havaltocht Wodi.
Sheridan Security, now introducing zero-wire smart alarm systems. Zero wire, zero mess, and a real peace of mind. With a simple press of a button, your alarm can be set or unset, or download the free app and control it from your phone. Call us today on 074 912 6025 and get your alarm from €299. Stay local, stay safe, and protect what you value most with Sheridan Security Systems.
Do you currently have vacancies that need urgently filled? Have you tried various ways to find new staff but didn't succeed? Let Highland Radio help you source and fill your current vacancies in the most cost-effective way. Simply sign up to our new job spot and we will tell our listeners about your vacancies both on air and online. Every Monday, Wednesday and Friday during our primetime shows, we will broadcast the latest job opportunities across the Northwest and into counties Derry and Tyrone. All job listings will be available online at highlandradio.com. For more information, contact the advertising team on 07491 25322 or email advertising@highlandradio.com. Highland Radio, we're here for you.
McDade's Bathroom Plumbing and Tile Showroom in Buncrana is your one-stop solution for all your bathroom plumbing and tile needs. We offer a wide range of top-quality plumbing fixtures, tiles and accessories, all at the best possible price. Our experienced plumbing experts will help you choose the right products for your bathroom, renovation, new construction or remodelling project. Visit McDade's Bathroom Plumbing and Tiles in Buncrana and see why we are the best choice for all your bathroom and plumbing and tile needs.
There's bingo every Monday night at Halfway House Bingo Burnfoot. Doors open at 7:30 with eyes down at 8:30. €2,500 must go. The snowball is now €1,600 on 45 numbers or less. If you're not in, you can't win. That's Halfway House Bingo tonight at 8:30. The DL debate with Sister Saras Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9 p.m. daily in Saras Kitchen, and there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
Yes, welcome back again to the DL debate. We're wrapping up all the weekend's action. Now I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Enda McGinley, former Tyrone star. Now, of course, top pundit. You see him on your TV screens giving us the lowdown on the football championship. He's here on the DL debate this evening. How are you, Enda?
I'm good, Brendan. I'm good. Just escaping from the glories of a family weekday evening. You know yourself.
Oh, good man. You're on a wee cupboard somewhere. Are you hiding out?
Door locked, and hopefully social services don't become aware of the situation. But yeah, all good, all good.
Good man, Enda. Good man. Enda, listen, before we get on, I was going to just catch up about the Tyrone Championships there at the weekend kicking off. But the news last week about your former boss and, of course, clubmate Micky Harte taking over, your big rivals in Derry. What was your first reaction on this, Enda? Did it come out of left field, or had you heard any rumours on this?
Completely left field, to be honest. I was down at a meeting in Croke Park, and the rumour went round the table, and I just said, "Oh no, I couldn't see it." And then, but more chatting, then the phones kept buzzing away in the middle of this meeting, and you realise something was going down.
Yes.
So look, surprising, and then it's one of those classic things, surprising absolutely, and then the more you think about it, the more you twist it over in your head. There's plenty of ways that it makes sense. You have to feel for Louth. That's a serious sucker punch, and the fact that he had agreed the 2 additional years, I think that all sort of makes it raise plenty of eyebrows. But at the same stage, everybody knows it's very, very clear cut why he's going there. And I think that just turns up the heat lovely with all the other managerial appointments in Ulster, none less than Donegal. It's leading to a very fascinating Ulster situation next year.
Yeah, fascinating. And there's so much in that, when you talk about the different managers that are going to be on the line against each other and the history that's behind it. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, when you think about it there, and someone from Tyrone was talking there, because our automatic reaction is here that Tyrone and Derry have probably one of the, let's say, deepest rivalries, we'll call it that, in Ulster. Mm-hmm. But there was a guy on from Tyrone saying that you got to remember Tyrone are bordering a lot of places, and where you are, of course, up in Kilcoyne, that it's not necessarily maybe the divide with Derry that some people think it might be. Would you agree with that, or what's your take on that?
Derry, I suppose, growing up, going to the matches in Clonus during the 90s, Derry was the first big one for me as a child, so that certainly stays with you. But it varies around the county, and it was always like within the Tyrone camp, within training, you'd have various fellas coming into various games, and they would take over about how this one is the big one, and you'd have the Moy or English fellas coming in against Armagh, and everything was about beating Armagh. You'd have the Loch Shore boys, and everything was about beating Derry. You'd have the Ahayarn and North Tyrone men then, and they couldn't stand the likes of Donegal or Derry, depending whereabouts you're from. Down with us, we're just over the way from Monaghan. So it all feeds into that sort of anybody but Tyrone type narrative that we know is out there. But certainly within Tyrone, there's a geographical spread, but the rivalry then changes with whatever team is really going at in a couple of big meetings. So it was Tyrone Derry in the 90s, definitely. It was Tyrone Armagh in the noughties. Tyrone Donegal really took over after that, to be fair. And now it's sort of wheeling round. Well, you can pick almost any of them as rivals at the minute, but I suppose Derry's the top gun. Tyrone and Derry didn't meet last year in the championship. And I think that will be a big one when it does happen. It was going to be a massive one anyway, but now I think with the Micky Harte factor, it'll certainly add plenty more space.
Yeah, and then you more or less said in your opening remarks there that, listen, there's one reason he's going there. I mean, Derry, so close to an All-Ireland final last year, Harte's experience in that realm. He obviously did a fantastic job at Louth, and you're right, you'd feel for them because he's given them such a lift. He had such a present there, himself and Devenney, that for them to lose him now, I mean, how do you replace them? But I mean, that's done. But from a Derry perspective, the way Derry play and the way Harte sets up his teams, can you see tactically, do you think it's just a fit that'll suit in terms of how Harte will shape this Derry side, something similar? And what he's really there for, and what you were kind of saying in your statement, is his know-how to take the team to All-Ireland final and possibly win it. Maybe that is as much as anything why he's in there. Yeah,
it's a very clear statement, isn't it? Like, and for you know yourself, like Donegal experience with Jimmy McGuinness, whenever a manager came in with very strongly held beliefs about heading for the very top, and how that sort of binded together the team, and everybody then had that unity of purpose, and suddenly a real deep sense of belief that we are on a special mission here, and there's only one destination is going to satisfy that. The Derry players, certainly, they've come up obviously through the ranks. Their story of on the rise over the past 4 years is remarkable. And they definitely, this year, they felt they had entered into the All-Ireland conversation and were deeply disappointed about that loss to Kerry. You could sense that with them, and they sensed that they could win the All-Ireland. Now, we've all been there, that initial sense of a team, okay, we can actually win the All-Ireland. It's almost like a surprise. There's a sense of a surprise. There's a sense of, oh my God, that we could do this. Whereas now, with the Micky Harte appointment, he's going there for one reason only, and somebody of Micky Harte's ilk joining up with a team like Derry tells all those Derry players, well, he obviously sees an All-Ireland in us. This suddenly gets very, very real, and so that's their target. There's no doubt about that. He will bring a lot of know-how. The tactical situation will be fascinating. Rory Gallagher had introduced a very, very different, unique type of attacking style where there was 4 or 5 men pushed up inside the 21. Mickey hadn't done that with any of his teams, but plenty of other teams were starting to sort of look at it and starting to experiment at it and could see the value in it, because it really does mess about with the opposition's shape and create a wee bit more space. And it seemed to really suit the Derry players. So I don't think he'll be ripping that up. I think there's plenty of fear that he's going to change them away from that style that people quite liked watching. I think what he will do, his biggest challenge will be to strengthen that panel, because for Derry, the run through Division 1 this year is a much bigger test for them than the run through Division 2, and I don't think you can survive that run through Division 1 and still be in good shape and being able to peak for the championship the way Derry will need to. If they are going flat to the mat with the same 15, 16, 17 players every single day of the week in huge Division 1 ties every single week. So his big thing, he has to strengthen that panel and see where that brings him. He's obviously got good young talent coming through from Derry, but he probably needs a few more players that are more ready to go than players that'll take 1 or 2 years maybe. Yeah,
and just a wee side note just before we go off this, and Devlin in there, highly regarded as a coach, coach with Slaughtneil, of course. Would that a bit of a bearing, or will that make the transition a bit easier if you've got a group of guys in there that's saying, listen, this guy's a great coach coming in as well, that we can go to the next level under Harte and Devon?
Yeah, Gavin's massive factor in that. Some, like, obviously at a point like this, there's 101 rumours going about. I heard one rumour today that it was actually Gavin that they wanted, but Gavin wouldn't go without Mickey. Now, whatever truth in that, I don't know, but certainly Gavin, he's managed 3 different actually clubs in Derry. His first management job that he took on when he was very young, only sort of mid-30s, was in Derry. He then managed Balahi, and then he was with Slaughtneil. And in all those clubs, he was really well regarded. So he is very highly thought of. Chris McKaig is working with him. He's taking Ardagh at the minute in the Tyrone Club Championship. And Chris McKaig is in there working with him as a coach as well. So again, this is very much, you'd imagine that is the most likely route that this sort of surprising turn of events has come about. But yes, massively highly regarded, is a superb coach. Like, we all know what Micky Harte thinks of him. We know what the Louth fellas all thought of him too. Again, they couldn't speak highly enough of him. So he's going in there now. He's big shoes to fill. Gallagher and Mina were exceptionally well thought of too, and Enda McGinley was within that setup too. Peter Hughes was there. So they had an excellent setup. There's no doubt about that. But Horse is a very unique sort of character, very unique way of going on, brilliant at bonding with players, has an infectious personality really when he's around the team, and a superb way of thinking about the game. So look, make no bones about it, they've got top manager in terms of experience and know-how and just his belief that he'll bring to them, but a superb coach in Gavin Devlin.
Yeah, and just going into the Tyrone setup, just looking at the, you mentioned there the likes of Devlin and Chrissy McGavitt, Ardagh. Some of the coaching teams in there, like Paul McGyver and Ryan McMenamin and Major Moore, and Mina, of course, you mentioned there as well. Luke Barrett, I think, up at Loch McCrory, is it? They They're in. Like, I'm just looking around.
Conleith Gilligan, the huge win over Carrickmore, probably the surprise or the biggest result of the first round. Probably Dark.
You've got county managements around all your clubs. I mean, it is a fact now. The weather, I think, played a bit of a part. Your own guys, champions, of course, got it off to a good start against Kilcoyne. But was it a bit more tactical at the weekend than you expected? It seemed to be the feeling that it was getting through from the games. But as I say, the weather could have played a part in that.
The weather and just the first round. The first round's notorious in Tyrone. It does tend to be quite cagey. Teams are out. It's just because it's all or nothing. You have so much on the line, and then the nature of the modern game anyway, there is that caginess to it. And then the conditions really played, certainly from the ones on Saturday and particularly on Sunday. The conditions had a massive bearing on things. Like they were absolutely brutal, to be fair. So yes, you will tend to see that. And to be honest, that caginess, it doesn't really lift throughout the championship. Like games will still be very, very cagey. All the teams are very well coached, as you pointed out, like really, really top level managers right across the clubs, and not just the managers but the entire coaching setups that surround these. It is so close to county level. Like it's essentially Division 4, Division 3 type county setups is what lots of clubs in Tyrone are running with. It is quite phenomenal. You can query the right or wrong in the greater scheme of things from the amount of money clubs are having to pump into it. But there's a huge pride in the top senior teams in those teams, and you see it throughout the league. In fairness, I think that's why the league is so high quality. Whenever you put in these top sort of management setups around a team, them men do not want to be associated with anything other than success. They're all trying to work on their own reputations. They're all trying to achieve, and they're not taking that level of post and that level of pressure for anything other than to be successful in it. So when you have so many teams with good setups, that's going to create a very, very tight environment where margins and tactical astuteness in terms of how teams are playing, and that sort of very steady control type of modern football that we know so well and can talk about so much, not maybe particularly enjoy at times, that does tend to be the order of the day. But as ever, then the football will tend to break out later on in games. Whenever it really starts going down to the wire, then you start to see the football sort of breaking out a wee bit more.
Yeah, and it's phenomenal you're mentioning there the teams. I don't know any county that has that type of talent coaching the teams. It just shows you the championship that's happening there. Look already, obviously Oma are out, Kilcoyne are out, Galway. You mentioned Carrickmore there, but was that
Lenny Harbinson was over Oma as well. Lenny Harbinson and Kevin Brady.
That's right. Was that Eden Dark, of course, coming up and pulling out a performance they got? Was that the biggest shock of the weekend? What in your mind stood out for you?
It was, because Ardagh, obviously it was Carrickmore that Ardagh had beaten last year's county final, and then they rejigged their management setup a wee bit. Stevie O'Neill had joined up with Archie Beattie within it, and they had an extensive backroom team as well. A really good young team. I seen them in a league game up against Ardagh actually about 3 weeks out from the championship, and it was an absolute cracker of a game of football, and they were moving very well that night. So Carrickmore certainly would have viewed themselves, and what has been seen widely, certainly within Ardagh, we would have always been looking at them as our rivals.
Yeah.
We would have seen them as real top contenders. Like, all clubs in Tyrone are dangerous, but there's sort of 4 or 5 that maybe are standing out as maybe the most likely to break through. Carrickmore were certainly right up there, so to see them picked off by Eden Dark. And again, Eden Dark, strange team, like tough for them during the league because they do lose out quite a few in terms of county players. But when they get them back, they do tend to be a force to be reckoned with. Difficult to beat. They have been building for several years. You wouldn't be expecting them, or they wouldn't have been the first name off the tip of the tongue when you were mentioning potential winners. But we have seen, like Dungannon, whenever they came through, and Trillick, whenever they came through initially, they weren't expected as well. And they came through, and suddenly then they're bona fide contenders now really every year for the past several years. Eden Dark, you would not write them off going on a similar journey. They've Trillick in the next round. That's going to be a real battle. Trillick, having lost Matty Donnelly, probably just aren't at the peak of the powers that they were a couple of years ago, but they have so much know-how and craft and quality within that team, and again the management setup. They will set up. They're very, very difficult to break down, but Eden Dork's going to have some wind in their sails after that win over Carrickmore. So again, that's a tough one to call.
Tough one to call. And no better man to call it. I'm actually having to go to call it now. I'm running out of time here. Joe Dex is looking at me. And the phenomenal. Love to talk to you more about that, particularly about the amount of money's put into these clubs and the fact that then they're out in one game. We'll chat again if that's okay. And I would love to catch up with you as the championship goes on.
Good chatting to you, Brendan.
Top man, Enda McGinley there, of course. Tyrone legend that he is. Great to catch up with him in the Dale debate. I want to thank Joe for producing here, my guests, John Gildea and Brendan Kilcoyne. Stay tuned for the next Monday night sessions. I'll speak to you all next week.
Check this.